Hi, and you're very welcome back to the Women's National League podcast here on finalwhistle.ie. My name is Breifne Earley, and we're once again joined by our co-host, Stephanie Roche, who abandoned us last week for like Champions League or something like that. Who's ever heard of that competition? Steph, as always, congratulations on smashing through another glass ceiling for women in the sport in this country. The first woman to ever commentate or co-commentate on a Champions League quarterfinal stage game.
Yeah. No, thanks very much. I enjoyed it. It's something that I've said several times. I'm really happy to be given the opportunity. I think it's great to see so many of the girls. I think Anya, Karen, Lisa Fallon, whoever does it, they all do well. And I think it's just about kind of getting people used to hearing that female voice. And I think anyone who gets it takes the opportunity well. And as I said, I'm just happy to be one of those women who's been given the opportunities by RTE and several other kind of broadcasting stations.
Yeah, and of course, not available last week, not because there was a direct clash between the recording, but because you're such a pro, you took extra time for the whole day to research and weren't available last Tuesday. So thank you very much to Maeve de Burka, herself a formidable former international footballer and Women's National League advocate and player, of course. Thank you very much to Maeve for joining us last week and filling in for you. But you are back with us, and we're going to be talking about all things. We might start with the biggest news of the weekend, which is, of course, the top of the table clash, or at least the maybe top of the table clash between yourselves in terms of the end of the season. Peamount United and Shelbourne, 2-1 victory for yourselves out in PRL Park. You got to be happy with the results. Happy with the performance as well?
It was a strange one, I have to be honest. I think Shels should feel unfortunate maybe not to come away from the game with something, if I'm totally honest. But look, I think we grounded out. I think mentally we were prepared for the battle, and we didn't have as much possession as we would have liked. But in fairness to Anya and Earley, the goals we got came at a very good time, and we showed quality at times for those games or for those goals. And also the penalty, unfortunately, which was missed. But I think we showed our quality at times in the games and at important times, and that won us the game in the end. And I think defensively we were solid. We worked really hard as a unit, and sometimes you have to grind out wins like that. As a centre forward, sometimes it's not enjoyable. You're just running around trying to make an impact as best you can. But I think, look, we knew Shels was going to be a tough game. They're a good footballing team, and we'll play them again over the course of the season, and we're just looking forward to the games. But it's great for us to be able to get off to the start we have. We played Wexford and Shels, two very tough games, and to come away with 6 points is the best we could have hoped for.
Yeah, not quite top of the table just yet because of goal difference and I suppose that game in hand for that week you were idle. But great start in terms of, I suppose, going forward. Where do you go from here? Like, because it's a very tight squad out there in Peamount. We've spoken before about how there's been no new arrivals this season. You must be delighted to still be kind of top dogs at this point.
Yeah, I think the important thing at Peamount is that we're a good team. Everyone works for each other. I think we spoke a few times about the different players that have come in. I think we didn't bring in players, but we had the likes of Dora Gorman, Tegan Ruddy. These are two very, very good players who were just coming back from injury last season. So they've got a good pre-season under their belt, and they're two huge players to the squad. And they probably haven't got the minutes that they really want. Dora hasn't got on at all yet. And for someone like that of her quality not to be playing the team, it shows that the competition and the quality that is there is great to see. And I think even the young players that we've brought in, I think Orla and Chloe have done excellent in pre-season games. They've been really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing them getting minutes and them being able to play in some of the games. I think, as I said before, the two toughest games we could have got at the start of the season came. And now I think it's a long season. There's going to be a lot of games, and hopefully these players will be able to get the minutes to show what they're about. But as I said, it's what Peamount is. The squad is very tight knit. Everybody works hard for each other, and I hope everybody enjoys it. I think I can say that when I'm playing. I think sometimes if you're not getting games, it can be difficult, but I think a lot of the players, they know they're going to get time this season. James is very fair and looks after the squad. Every player is kind of equal. So I'm looking forward to seeing those players, as I say, get more minutes, but happy that we've got off to the start we have. And hopefully in the games coming up, there will be more room for changing players and giving players more minutes.
Yeah, a bit disappointing that they're scheduled at the same time. Like, there's 5 games all on at the same time across the men's and women's leagues on Saturday at 6:00. So it makes it very difficult to watch it. I didn't see all the game. I only really saw the highlights, the goals from the game. But the first one in particular impressed me. I thought the finish was a bit strange because of the nature of the save and the kind of the scramble to get the ball across the line. But the build-up was excellent. Good work from Earley to you to Anya, or maybe Earley to Anya to you to Anya back, and then back to Earley again. It was just a really nicely worked move that kind of started with Karen Duggan winning a header in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what was frustrating about the game, because I feel like when we did play football, we done it well. As I said, the goals were all good goals, or 2 good goals, and then the penalty as well was good build up. But it didn't happen enough, and that's what you like to do. We are a footballing team. We like to play, and I think at times in the big game, it's like we want to get the win and we do what it takes to get the win. But I think, as I said, the goals that we did score shows the quality that we do have, and that kind of combination play is something that we like to try and do. And as I said, just glad that we could get the goals and get the win on the day.
Yeah, you mentioned Shels now, of course. Unlucky, maybe in your own estimation, which is big coming from an opponent who's just won the game.
A little
It's
bit.
yeah, but you're saying that they probably deserve something out of the game. Does it whet the appetite for those two more league clashes that come later in the year, and potentially a cup clash too at some point, maybe depending on draws, obviously?
Yeah, definitely. I think we know every game we play against Shels is going to be a tough game. I think both teams like to play football. It's usually quite an open game where you see a lot of good players playing and getting on the ball, and that's kind of what I like to do. I like to play in those games. I think any decent player wants to play in a game that's competitive, and there's football being played, free flowing football. And I have to give credit to Shels; they were very good the other day. As I said, I think we played the game quite well in terms of we stood firm, we didn't let them in. They had a goal disallowed, that was offside. I think it was fairly offside. I haven't heard anybody complain that it wasn't. But yeah, look, as I said, always a good game against Shels, and credit to them, they were very good the weekend. But we're looking forward to improving maybe our performance a little bit better, because I think that can improve. But in terms of getting the results and getting the win, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned goals and games, and there was plenty of them across the weekend, 20 in all. We'll talk about the first game of the weekend, maybe Bows and Cork City, 3-3, an absolute humdinger of a clash here. Couple of little mistakes, but some brilliant pieces of individuality to create chances and create goals. A lovely little bicycle kick at really close range from Lauren to kind of for maybe the Cork second goal. I think the order escapes me right now, but some really impressive moments. How did you get a chance to watch it back, or are you in game mode on a Saturday afternoon like that?
I actually didn't get a chance to see Cork. I've seen the goals. I've seen all the goals across social media. I've seen them, but I didn't get a chance to watch the game itself. But I knew it would be an appetizing game. I thought it would be kind of a tough game. I thought Cork would nick it. I'm not going to lie. I think Bows have done well in terms of getting the results the last couple of games. But as you say, some good bits of play for the goals, and to see 6 goals come in the game is always entertaining for anybody that does tune in to watch it. So, yeah, a good kind of entertaining football for people to watch.
Yeah, just for the record, the goals were Erica Burke after 4 minutes for Bohemians to open the score, and a quick brace from Lauren Egbonliu, 26 minutes and 32 minutes left them 2-1 up at the break. Aoife Robinson equalised on 69 minutes, while Laura Shine a minute later on 70 put Cork ahead again. And finally, Chloe Darby stepped up from the penalty spot, I think, to earn a draw in that particular game. So Bows, they'll be happy with their start to the season. Cork, a bit disappointing maybe from what they would have expected.
Yeah, I think so. And I think even personally from myself, I thought maybe they would have, as I said, I thought they would have got a result against Bows. I think in terms of Bows' fighting spirit, they're a good team. They're solid. They're organised well. But I thought maybe Cork would have that little bit of quality that would get them the win in that game. So all credit to Bows. They made it difficult for them. But I think if you were to ask a Cork player, maybe they'd be disappointed with their start so far.
Yeah, conceding early and late is always a bad sign, just in terms of organisation. Just when you're a little bit asleep at the end of a game or at the start of a game, just to concede 2 goals in those 2 periods is tough. DLR Waves, Galway Women's FC. We will be touching on that a little bit later with one of our guests today, Jess Gleeson, who's going to be chatting to us about that. Played at the same time as you. I'm guessing you probably much the same. You probably only got a chance to look at the highlights. Kate Mooney scored an early goal on 15 minutes, and then unfortunately was taken off due to an injury, which looked potentially like it could be quite serious. So I suppose everyone in the league hates seeing anybody getting hurt and having a situation like that. So hopefully she's on the mend sometime soon, and we see her back on a pitch very shortly. Galway Women's FC, Rachel Kearns hit an absolute belter of a header, great ball in, and then just hit it absolutely inch perfect, straight out of the textbook. Gave the goalkeeper no chance for DLR. And then what can you say about the end? It was just messy, and it was a little mistake, moment of madness. Ball ends up on the back of the net. Katie, be delighted with that.
Yeah, no, it's a good result for DLR. So yeah, it's a good result for DLR, and I think they'll be delighted. I think obviously spoke to Jess as well, and I think they've been a team and maybe have ground out good draws or maybe lost out in the last few minutes. So I think it's nice to see them getting a little bit of luck. I think Galway, Rachel Kearns has been excellent for them so far. I think the header, it's not even just about the header, it's the movement to get herself into the position to be able to get the header on target. It's a great delivery. And yeah, I think, look, there's positives for both teams to take away. I think it's never nice to lose in the last minute for Galway, and obviously for DLR, it's the night after kind of 90 minutes to get that late winner as well.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I watched the game on Saturday, and I thought all the goals came against the run of play. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but DLR scored when really they hadn't really been in the game. And then they were dominant when Galway equalised. And then the end of the game, Galway probably had shaded the clash overall. I think if DLR are honest, they'll probably agree with that. But Galway probably deserved more out of the game. And then just circumstances happened, and Katie Malone managed to stick that ball in the back of the net late on, and all 3 points staying in the UCD Bowl. Final game of the weekend. One of those we probably don't want to dwell on too much. Ella Malloy on fantastic form. Treaty just maybe fell away after half an hour and just weren't able to compete at that level. 7-1 the final score. But for a young side coming into the league, because Treaty, let's be honest, they're only really around a year or two. I think it's their third season in total. They've lost the likes of Mary Curtin. Wexford have been there every season. They've been competitive virtually every single year. They've won the league. They've got some experienced campaigners on that side. It's tough, though, for a young team like Treaty, 7-1 in the end.
Yeah, I think, to be fair to Treaty, they probably got Wexford at a bad time. I think they've come from obviously losing to ourselves and getting that draw against DLR, and they're obviously hungry to get off the mark and to score goals. And as you mentioned, Ella Malloy, fantastic young player, scoring 4 goals in the game. And look, she's a nightmare for anybody to play against. And I think if you go down to early goals and then you have her running at you, it's a difficult thing to put up with, So in fairness to Treaty, I think, as I said, they got Wexford probably at the worst time they possibly could, because I know Wexford, those experienced players, they'll want to go into that game and really stamp their authority on it and get themselves off to the start they wanted, we kind of seen that within the game with the goals they scored and the amount of them. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a battering for Treaty. We spoke kind of a few times before the season started about maybe we wouldn't see as much of that. But again, you've got to put it down to, as I said, bits of brilliance from a very, very talented young player.
Yeah, and of course, one of the goals impressed me, probably my pick of the goals, and some of the goals were really, really good, but I really liked the technique of Sinead Taylor. I don't know if you saw her goal at the weekend, but it almost reminded me of your own strike from years ago. Just the way a little clip over the defender's leg and just powered it home, and really didn't give the keeper any chance. And I think that was probably the one, maybe that was for the second goal, and it just kind of, you could see the heads dropping a little bit. Treaty at that point, they'd got back into it, haven't conceded the first one sloppily enough. And I think they've probably not helped themselves at the back a few times this year with some of the defending. They try to play it out, and I admire that, but I don't know if they have the players to pull that off. I know we've talked about that before in the program. Not to not to say anything about the players they have. They're trying to play, and I really, really like to see teams doing that.
It's something that's coming. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, and you got to. I think we spoke about it before. You have to admire coaches who are trying to believe in their players and trying to give them that confidence to play. But I do think at times, I've seen it when we play for Peamount against certain teams. You're thinking, why are they trying to do this? Like we're winning it every time, especially teams who try to play out from the back and stuff. But again, it's a work in motion. It's something, or a work in progress, should I say? They're trying to get it kind of trying to get the right style of play going. And as you say, maybe the players that are there at the moment haven't reached the level just yet, but I'm sure the coaching staff maybe believe that they will in the next couple of seasons. And I think it's important that they do keep on trying to do the right things for themselves.
Yeah, I think you also learn more in defeat than you do in victory as well. So, maybe it's not that bad to get a bit of a shock every now and again. You don't want to be doing it every week, but every now and again. And that's the fixtures or the results of the weekend and the games that were played over the last couple of days. A busy weekend next week. We'll talk about the fixtures in a little while, but first, maybe let's have a chat with some of our guests. And we've got two great interviews coming up for you right now. The first one is DLR centre back Jess Gleeson is going to be talking to us about the game at the weekend, her move from Shels, and how the season has gone for them so far. After that, we'll catch up with Northern Ireland international Julie Nelson. I know not technically a Women's National League player, but we just wanted to have a chat with her about Northern Ireland's fantastic achievement in recent weeks and qualifying for the European Championships, and maybe what they're doing that we might be able to learn from as a footballing country, that our girls can maybe take inspiration from and say, well, if they can do it, why can't we? And maybe we might be seeing ourselves at the World Cup finals in not that far down the road. Steph, let's have a chat with Jess. Now, over the weekend in the UCD Bowl, we saw a very entertaining game, end-to-end, lots of talking points, some great goals as well, and finished with a good goal-mouth scramble, maybe a little bit of a defensive mix-up as well. We're joined by UCD defender, I said UCD, DLR Waves defender, I better get that right, Jess Gleeson. I'm too old for this, Jess. You're very welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Obviously, your first season with DLR Waves, how's it been for you so far this year?
Yeah, it's been brilliant. It's been a breath of fresh air, to be honest. I kind of fell out of love with the game over the past couple of seasons, and I suppose I wasn't really going to go back. And then Green gave me a shout and went through everything with me that they had in their plans, and I could see that what it was developing over the past couple of years. And since I went in from day one, it's been unreal. Like, I've enjoyed every second of it, and now that the season has started, it's so much more enjoyable, to be honest.
Yeah, we've talked about DLR quite a bit on the show, and obviously they're close to me, so that's why I kind of pushed them a little bit. But we've played against these as well, and I just think I spoke to Breifne on this as well about how, as a team, you all just seem really close. You seem like you want to work hard for each other, and like you said, you fell out of love with the game. Like, what was your reason for leaving Shels? Was it just didn't want to play anymore, or were you planning on kind of maybe getting back in, or was it just didn't work? Because I feel like since you've gone there, like, it's a different environment altogether, and I feel like you just look like you're so much more happier, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So no.
I suppose last season with Shels, it was kind of a thing where I was trying hard but wasn't getting rewarded, kind of thing, and it wasn't to do with any other player or anything. It was just management selection and stuff like that, and I totally respect all that. And I suppose towards the end, it was kind of a thing where I was kind of hemming and hawing kind of over the past couple of years whether to go back playing GAA or what not to do. And then I kind of had made my mind up at the end of last season that I wasn't going to continue playing soccer, and that GAA was going to be what I was going to do this year, to be honest. And then I suppose, as I said, when Green gave me the shout, it was kind of a wake-up call to stay in soccer. And I'm glad that I did, because, as you said, I'm much more happy in myself, and I am really enjoying it now. More than I ever have, to be honest, and it's just nice to be able to turn up and enjoy it and not have the weight of the world on your shoulder, I suppose.
Yeah,
in terms of the options, did the fact that there is no GA at the moment make a difference in your decision, or was that just kind of coincidental?
It was just coincidental, to be honest. It was kind of a thing of, I kind of I gave it a couple of days to think about it, and the more I thought about it, I suppose I wanted to give it one last chance and not just completely leave it. And I suppose it worked out well in that sense, kind of way.
Let's talk about the game on Saturday. Obviously, you played a fairly decent Galway side who've had a decent start to the season. They had, up to that point, been unbeaten. They had 1 win, 1 draw from the opening 2 games, and you'd come in without a victory. You got a great start. Well, talk us through the game from your point of view in terms of how it panned out.
I suppose we started off well, and then it kind of, in the middle of the pitch, it kind of got compact, and it was a lot of more of a battle than anything else. And both teams kind of struggled to get the ball down and to play their game and stuff. And I suppose our goal came in about 15 minutes. And it was came at the right time because it kind of settled us a little. And then obviously we lost Kate Mooney to an injury, which kind of threw us a little. And Galway kind of came at us and kind of gained a bit of momentum, but we held them out there until half time. We went in, we rejigged it at half time or whatever, and came out in the second half. And then it was another battle in the second half. They obviously scored, and then obviously, as you said, we got that last couple of minutes in the goal, and it was unreal to get the win after a good battle. I suppose over the last couple of years, them kind of games, I suppose, DLR wouldn't have won the game. It kind of probably would have been a draw, or Galway would have went on to push on. But I suppose it shows the resilience now that's in the squad as a whole, and even the guards that came on off the bench, they put in a great shift, and it showed towards the end that we got the 3 points.
Yeah, I think that's something that we spoke about as well before the start of the season. I think with the DLR last season, they made it difficult for everybody to play in games. But I personally was thinking where the goals were going to come from. Obviously, you've mentioned Kate, unfortunately, she's come off injured. Like, do you think it's more of a put in the team there that they can actually go and win games, that you're actually going and attacking and the goals are coming? Or do you just think it's just that team needed time to gel and now it's kind of coming together with Elf coming in, Barnes coming in the back, a little bit more of a winning mentality to say, like, you've come from winning titles at Wexford, you've been at Shels where you're competing. You think that's kind of helping the team this season in terms of actually going and getting the wins and not just kind of battling out and getting the draws, as you said?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. I think, like you could see towards the end of last year, like our DLR, they were pushing teams till the end. Like they pushed ourselves in Peamount, they pushed ourselves in Peamount and pushed us at Shels in games. And I suppose then with myself and Niamh coming in the back line, obviously we have Louise to come in as well when she's recovered from her injury. And then the girls up top then are really, they're getting their confidence. They're scoring goals. We scored a good few goals in pre-season. So I suppose it's all coming together and the puzzle pieces are kind of fitting together. And it's all starting to slowly build.
One of those pieces, I suppose, was Kate Mooney on Saturday. We've already talked about, I suppose, the impact she made straight away in terms of the goal she got. Disappointing to lose her to injury. I know it's not looking great, but we don't have any firm diagnosis on what's wrong with her. But she could be out for a little while. How much of an impact is that going to have on the team?
Yeah, look, it'll have an impact, but I suppose the girls, like we have Carla there, we have Katie Malone, we have Avril, we have Jane, we have Kerry, we have Shauna, like they're all goal scorers. Catherine's a goal scorer. Like we have goal scorers there and the confidence is there. And I suppose hopefully it's not going to be a long-term thing with Kate and only a couple of weeks or whatever, but there is girls there that will score goals as well. And like it's nice to see that there is other girls there that can come in, they'll score goals. Like Katie Malone coming in the weekend, scoring the winner. That's a massive boost for her confidence. And then obviously we have Carla then to come back in over the next couple of weeks as well.
It's up to other players to step in now, isn't it? I think it's a good chance for other players.
Absolutely.
I feel like, that's good.
Obviously, this weekend you play against Cork, long journey down to Turner's Cross. Let's talk about the facilities, because obviously there's been a lot of talk about Cork being in Turner's Cross this year. It's not exactly new to the league. Plenty of teams have been playing in, I suppose, the equivalent of what their boys' teams and men's teams are playing in. But how much better is it to be having that kind of week in, week out? You're playing in decent stadiums, decent facilities, decent changing rooms for the most part. And just I suppose the standard across the league has just risen in that respect.
Yeah, it just brings that kind of professional aspect to it. To see that we're seen as the same level as the men in terms of that we can play in the same like grounds as them, and we're treated like the fact that SSE Electricity have come in and taken the sponsorship of the league is massive this season. You can see it then like with all the games being streamed and the promotion that's been given this season has been like head and shoulders above what we could ever ask for, and it's just going to keep growing. Especially with obviously, as you said, like the facilities that we get to play in and the way that people can actually see our games now. Even though the fans can't be in the stadiums, they can still watch our games every week, which is great.
For both of you, I suppose, because you've both been around the game, not necessarily the league in terms of Steph, you've been out of the country, but you've both been around, you've been there from the start, you've seen it develop over the years. How much of a difference does it make to have that kind of press coverage, to have even podcasts like this? I know there's a few other people doing similar. in terms of covering the league, because at the very, very start, there was little to none in terms of coverage. We did a tiny bit. I was involved with Dublin City FM. We had 10, 15 minutes once a week, and it was whoever you could get on the phone. It was really ad hoc. But now it's just a bit more structured and probably better quality stuff across the board.
Yeah, I suppose I'll jump in there. I think the biggest thing for me is that more people are aware of it. I think that's more important than anything. I think with the likes of electricity coming on board and the stream and the live streaming of the games, I think even the fact that no one's able to go and watch football is kind of going to help the women's game, because I feel like people will watch games because they're on, because they've nothing else to do. And I'm all for that if it means they're going to get into it and they actually watch it, because I think the biggest part for me is the ignorance around women's football. People don't watch it and just presume it's not good. So now they have the opportunity to actually watch the streams and see the games. And I think that will definitely help get more viewers. And hopefully when people are allowed back into the games to watch them, that will bring more fans as well, you know. But for me, I think the worry is that we just need to really work on making it sustainable, because I've been in the league. There's been so many different sponsors over the years. I think last year they struggled to get a sponsor. It ended up being Barrettstown, a charity. So for me, I think it just needs to be look to the future. Don't just do it year by year and hope for the best and see what happens. I think with electricity coming in, it's huge. And keeping them, I think, is the most important thing. But it has to be sustainable for any business who comes in to sponsor it. And there needs to be more preparation for the future and trying to make it better every year, because that's what we as players want. That's the management within the clubs, within the league want as well. So hopefully with the way things are going now, it continues to progress and doesn't kind of just fade away in the next couple of seasons.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Been there, you know what it's all about, Jess.
Absolutely.
Like, in terms of the challenges that lie ahead of all the teams, what's the next thing you'd like to see the league or the FAI or the clubs take on and really push? Because I think LOI TV has been a huge addition to the game. Even just being able to sit in Leitrim here where I am and watch every game, either live or back, it's a phenomenal feature. But what will be the next thing you'd like to see them increase? Maybe, Jess, if you want to maybe tell us, is there anything you think is missing from the league at this point that it needs to have?
I suppose possibly maybe if we could get some games maybe even once or twice a month, even put on like RT, like they have the Friday night games for the lads. Like if they have maybe one game a month even, on a Saturday for our games, I think that would just show that there is potential there, and just showcase that the women's game is just as good as the men's game, if not better sometimes, to be honest with you. Like the skill in the game is unreal. Like the goals that are being scored in this league, even just the start of this league, they're unbelievable. Even some of the goals the weekend, it just shows that there is so much potential in it, and if it's broadcast and it's showed properly, then it can just keep growing in that sense. So I think maybe potentially getting games maybe once or twice a month live would help it as well, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think it's something I remember a couple of years ago speaking to someone. I remember obviously it isn't on as much this Monday Night Football. M&S was on at the time with the men's, and I was discussing this with someone, and I thought, like, no one ever do it with the Women's National League? And I think the biggest thing for RTE or TV companies coming in, I think, is that they have to have the facility to be able to use it. And I think us being able to play in better facilities is definitely going to kind of set us on the right track for that.
Jess, bring it back to DLR, because you're here to tell Steph on a leash, so she's just going to tangent. And I'm not innocent myself. In terms of DLR, obviously, we talked about the first half of the game last week, but the finish was probably what most people are talking about. 15 minutes ago, you're 1-0 up, you're at home against a team more or less at the same level as you from last season, at least. You'd expect to close it out. Disappointing to concede the goal, despite, I have to say, it was an excellent goal. The cross, the free kick in, and the header was as good as I've seen on a ladies' football pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Rachel Carnes, she played in the league a couple of years ago, and now she's back, and like she's stronger than ever, to be honest. She's one of the strongest players I've ever come up against. And her header, she just timed her jump, everything was just perfect. She couldn't have got it more perfect if she tried, and I suppose we were disappointed to obviously concede the free kick in the area that we did, and obviously at the time of the game when we were defending really well, we'd held them out really well, and then obviously it happened that they scored or whatever. But I thought our resilience after we scored to keep going and keep pushing to get the second goal, it just shows that that fight is there now in the squad, and the belief that we can actually go and we can turn like a draw into a win now is starting to build. And the fact that we got it in pretty much the last couple of minutes it just shows that we'll fight till the end for each other, and we'll get our rewards.
It's always that bit sweeter to get the last minute winner as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's all that better.
Yeah.
In terms of the manner of it, though, I suppose it's never nice to see any player, I suppose, make a mistake that cost their team a goal or a draw in this case. You gotta feel for the goalkeeper for Galway, or do you just say no? We profited our points in the bag?
Look, you can look at it from both sides, I suppose. From Galway's side, you'd be like, oh, look, it's bad. It's not bad. It's lousy on her that it happened in such the way that it happened that she conceded from it. But from our point of view, we're delighted. Do you know what I mean? Like, we got the win, we got the 3 points, and I suppose if Katie wasn't in the position that she was in, and the ball wasn't put in the way it was put in, the keeper kind of comes, she collects it, and then she goes. But the way Katie put the pressure on, it kind of shook her a bit, I think, and she dropped it. So I suppose you have to give credit to Katie Malone for the pressure she put on her, and the ball in from Aoife as well was unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm all for giving the striker the benefit of the doubt. He wasn't there, so don't be blaming the keeper. Just give the striker all the credit.
In terms of the league table, though, it does mean you're up and running. First win, albeit with one game less played than most of the teams in there. In fact, both of your sides, Peamount and DLR, both only played 2 games so far. The league's beginning to take a little bit of shape, maybe along semi-traditional lines, top 3, Shels, Peamount, Waterford. And then there's another kind of group, even though they're on level points, probably, to be fair, based on results and who they've played so far, Bowes, yourselves, and Galway. Cork, again, only lone defeat so far in 3 games. Do we think maybe that could be a group of 3 or 4 that are going to compete for that 4th or maybe even 3rd place in the table?
I suppose it's over the years it's been a case of if you beat the teams around you in the league, it gives you that better chance of getting to where you want to be. And I suppose we set ourselves a goal at the start of the season, like to push and to get into that top 4. Because over the past 2 seasons, DLR they finished 5th, and I suppose to get into the top 4, it'd be a goal of ours to push in and to actually challenge, I suppose, the likes of Peas and Shels and Wexford, and to just show that there is more around in the top 3 kind of thing, and to push and open up the league a bit more, and not make it as predictable as a kind of, like, not that it is, but that there is more around than the top 3, if that makes sense. Others will compete and can compete, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's definitely something we've talked about. Obviously, Wexford went and kind of ruined it yesterday with that win against Breifne. I didn't see many teams getting hammered or there being many big score and defeats, because I think so many of the teams are getting closer to, as you say, those top 3 teams, and it's great. It's great for the league. It's great for us, even, I suppose, getting more competitive games every week. You know, I think sometimes in the past you go to games and you kind of go in knowing you're going to win. I know that's a terrible thing to say, but it's the truth. You know, you go into a game knowing we're going to get our chances here. If we take them, we'll win. But I think now every game you go into, you can take nothing for granted. And I've said this so many times. It can only be good for the league, which is great to see. Like,
absolutely.
When we have you on, we mentioned you were at Shels last year. You play them back in Talcott Park on the 1st of May, maybe 10 days away from this going out. Any kind of thoughts in your head? Maybe like, oh, I'd love to beat them. I'd love to score. I'd love to. Is there anyone you want to have a crack at? I'm
going to say it is.
Look, I suppose it's going to be exciting to go back. It's going to be weird to go back. Obviously spent 3 seasons there, and it's going to be weird to go back to Talca and to be in the away dressing room, I suppose. But I can't wait to just go. And we played them in a game in pre-season, and that was kind of the breaking of the ice, I suppose, for me to go back and play against them. So it's just I'm going to treat it as a normal game, and hopefully, look, who knows, on the day we could get a win. If I score. Don't see it happen, but we'll wait and see. But look, we'll go. We'll give it our very best, and look, who knows what can happen.
Another assist, maybe, Jess.
Possibly.
That's just you.
Well, listen, Jess Gleeson, as ever, lovely to spend a bit of time with you and catch up with everyone what's going on down there in DLR Waves. I suppose we better say get well soon to Kate Mooney, and hopefully the scans come back and it's not as serious as maybe might be feared initially, and hopefully we'll see her back on a pitch very, very shortly. That's probably the more important thing than the result really at the end.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Yes.
Thanks very much for having me, guys.
Now, we've spoken a good bit about the international game recently on the show, and while Ireland were playing friendlies in the last 2 weeks, Northern Ireland were doing something a little bit more exciting, and they of course managed to seal their qualification for the European Championships with a double-header win in both legs, a 4-1 on aggregate victory over the Ukraine, who of course came out of our group in qualification. And we're joined by Julie Nelson now of the Northern Ireland women's football team to talk about that whole endeavour over the last 2 years to qualify. Julie, first of all, congratulations and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
How have you been? It's been, I suppose, nearly a week now at this stage since you secured that qualification. How has life been for you? Is it any different? Are you walking on air for the last week?
Yeah, we're probably starting to come down from cloud nine, kind of now. But the attention that our qualifications got has just been amazing. From all over Northern Ireland, from people that you wouldn't have expected even to be watching football, never mind a women's football game. So many people seem to have watched it, and it helped obviously with it being on the mainstream channel for the first time. And we've just been over the moon for the past week, and I don't think it'll properly set in probably until maybe the draw's made towards the end of the year, and then obviously the build up starts in the 2022.
Yeah, talk us to the two games, because obviously away game first, 2-0 victory over there, and then a 2-1 win last week at home, with just the icing on the cake with a very, very late winner just on the night. 4-1, did you expect to go through, first of all, and did you expect to do it in the manner that you did? Because the Ukraine put the Republic of Ireland out of this competition.
Yeah, we knew going into it, that we were still going to be the underdogs. We're 25 places in the world below Ukraine, and we knew it was going to be a very difficult task. But I think that the fact that we had played them last March in the Peamount Cup kind of helped us a bit, and obviously we were able to use contacts. And I know our analysts spoke to the analysts from the Republic of Ireland, to try and get some inside information as well. But I suppose we didn't expect ourselves to win it kind of as convincingly as we did. To get a 2-1 win away from home is fantastic at any level, never mind in the European playoff. And then to finish it off with a 2-0 victory last Tuesday night was just the icing on the cake. And from 1 to 14 that went on the pitch, it was fantastic from everyone.
Of course, I got the scores mixed up. They were, of course.
Yeah, I was going to interrupt there. So I'd leave it to it.
In terms of the success though, over the last few years, of course, we all know Alfie Wiley was a campaigner for a long, long time for women's football in the north of Ireland. Kenny Shields came in; he replaced him fairly recently. It seems to have been a masterstroke. I know it didn't quite work out in the end for Kenny down here with Derry City. I say down here in the men's league in the Republic of Ireland with Derry City, but he seems to have just had the golden touch up there with yourselves.
Yeah, obviously, Kenny's record kind of speaks for itself. And yes, it probably didn't end how he had imagined, at Derry City. But, he brought silverware to Derry, as he has done with most other clubs that he's been with. And, he took them to Europe. And when he came in with us, he had a meeting with us at the start. And the two words he kind of talked about were trust and integrity. And he wanted us to be together as a squad and, for it to be an open and honest environment. And I think it's kind of built on from there. And, you can see, everyone can see, the spirit that we have in our squad, whether players are on the pitch, whether they're injured, or whether they don't get on the pitch, when they're on the subs bench. The spirit within the squad is so tight. And I think that's a main part of the reason, why kind of we've been so successful, because we have that within our squad.
Yeah, I was kind of on to Breifne about trying to get you on, because I think there's kind of a bit of a connection in terms of like yourself, you're playing in the Northern League now. I'm back playing in the Women's National League, and I think when we look at the players, I think it was 6 out of starting 11 are still playing in Northern Ireland. Am I correct in saying that? Yeah. And it's like 14 out of the whole squad are still playing in Northern Ireland. So what do you feel has changed? Because I know, I feel like we've made huge progressions over the last couple of years, but we're still kind of coming short a little bit. And obviously you have gone and qualified. Like, where do you feel you have kind of made the changes, or what do you feel kind of gave you that push to get you over the edge, like to get you over the line, should I say, and get you to those European Championships?
Yeah, obviously, over the last kind of 12 months, it's obviously been a bit disrupted in terms of our league. We had to have a shortened league last year. We only played from September through to December, and as much as that doesn't help with the clubs, I suppose it helped us in a way with the international setup, because we were able to train 3 times a week, with Kenny and the other staff, all the home-based players. And, we have kind of 20 players regularly at training. There's some of the under-19s are brought up as well for experience for them. And I suppose that helps us, with Kenny's philosophy and Dean, his son, it helps us to get a better understanding of that and, to work with them. And then obviously we had our club season, which was shortened, but it's still fantastic that we were able to get a season fitted in, during the middle of a pandemic. And from January then onwards, again, we were in 3 times a week with Kenny, as well as our club pre-season training had started back as well. So, we're pretty much training full time, as well as obviously working full time. And I suppose just having those consistent numbers at training week in, week out, as I said, working with the staff and getting a proper understanding of what they're expecting from us really does help whenever you go into the match environment.
So you were training 3 times with the team, and then what were you training with your clubs? I know obviously the league was disrupted and stuff, but when you were back in pre-season, were you training 5 days a week, or was it kind of working around?
From January on there, for example, we would have trained Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday with the international squads, and our clubs were started off with 1 day a week. So on a Sunday, most of our clubs would train on a Sunday. And then we had 2 gym sessions a week as well to fit in. So you're talking, 6 days a week basically training.
And were the clubs and all okay with that? Was it kind of just because we knew you were the playoff type of thing, or
So for those first 3 months, my club especially, they were extremely supportive and knew obviously that the main focus within that period was the international, the playoffs for us. And my club, there was only 3 of us involved in training the whole way through. Some of the other clubs had more players and probably were less happy with it, but I suppose it's a short-term thing for them, and a long-term gain for us and for the women's game in Northern Ireland if we went on to be successful. So, yes, they were accommodating, and, Kenny spoke to all the coaches and they were happy to work with them.
You're involved with the home-based squad here in the Republic of Ireland, and I don't know the details, but you don't have 3 sessions a week with them, do you?
No, we train. It's once a week, but sometimes it can be disruptive. It can be kind of it doesn't happen kind of maybe once every 3 weeks nearly. I just got an email last night. We're training next Wednesday. So look, I think we're trying to get better with that. I think the biggest issue for us is that we've got players coming from so many different counties. Like, where do you train? You like how far are players having to travel, and are they getting expenses? How does it work with that?
We train just about 35 miles outside of Belfast. So it's kind of central, within Northern Ireland, and it helps, everybody get to those sessions. But I mean, one of the girls, she comes from Enniskillen, which is a good kind of hour and a half drive. And she comes up to all the sessions as well. So, you get the buy-in from the players, but yes, it's slightly easier with us because we're obviously slightly closer together than you would be down there. But when our league season starts here, we start next Wednesday. Our league starts. We will be in every Saturday just with the international squad. So we'll be training twice a week with our clubs plus the game, because we play Wednesday nights. We play our games.
Okay.
And then we'll be in Saturday morning training with the international squad, and that'll be the build up then into the next camp.
And just to go back to that travel issue, you mentioned girls coming from Enniskillen. How many are coming from Enniskillen? Just the one? Any coming from Derry or Coleraine or anywhere up around that side of the country that have a fairly long trek as well?
Yeah, well, there's only one comes from Enniskillen, and it takes me kind of 40 minutes to get there from Belfast. So everybody's kind of doing a 40-minute journey, roughly. There's nobody really lives close to our training facility. So most people are doing, you're talking, it's at least half an hour, but more likely to 40 to 45 minutes, there and back. So you're leaving your house, like I leave my house just after 6, and I'm not getting back to probably at least 10 o'clock at night, for those. So it's long enough.
In terms of the practical benefits of it, though, having that kind of club feel to the international side, you've been involved in a lot of these campaigns over the years. Is it an improvement? Has it added to the, I suppose, the camaraderie and the feeling between the squad and the bonding between the squad?
Yeah, definitely. You know, we're all really good friends now, and you know, we do feel like a club side. You know, especially obviously all the ones that are training at home, but we still keep in contact with the players that are based, you know, overseas in England and Scotland as well. And a lot of the players have been in the squad for, you know, a considerable length of time, and you know, I think that also helps that we have quite a lot of experienced players now that have all played together for many years.
In terms of the actual makeup of the league up there, because we probably don't know that much about maybe the main teams and how many teams play, how many games a season. What is the makeup of the top division in the north?
So our top league now only has 6 teams in it. 5 of the teams are partnered with men's clubs, and only Science Swifts are independent. They are a standalone, you know, club. So I play for Crusaders Strikers, obviously partnered with Crusaders men. There's Glentoran ladies, Cliftonville ladies, and Derry City as well, and Linfield. So they're it's kind of, you know, well, 5 obviously partnered with the men's clubs, and you know, our club is quite well supported in terms of we play our games at Seaview, we train at Seaview, and you know, within the last year, we've you know, we used to have to pay for a kit basically, or have to get sponsorship each year. So thankfully now we don't have to do that, and that's only happened within the last year, as I say, because previously we would have had to, you know, ask for somebody to sponsor us as a player, or pay the money yourself, you know, for your kit. But it's, you know, we're all amateurs up here, and I know Linfield pay some expenses to their players, but none of the other clubs pay their players at the moment, and you know, everybody's just amateurs, as I say.
Yeah, it's similar to here. Actually, we used to have to pay €500 kind of to cover yourself for the year for your kit and everything else. And this is the first season that it's actually being paid for us.
Yeah.
So it's a huge help. Like even just the club themselves would have to be getting players to go out and get sponsors, because some of the players just aren't bothered in that kind of way. So it's a huge pressure off even the club's shoulders as well as the players to be able to have that as well. So I think for us, that's definitely one step in the right direction again, you know. And I think when you have sponsors coming in and sponsoring the league as well, that helps too. So like, hopefully we'll be able to kind of get there. Do you think, in terms of the Northern League, do you think you're close to getting to maybe semi-professional, or are you still a good bit off that?
I think we're still probably a few years off that, I would say. There's talks going on at the moment about developing a PFA up here, and the women's game hopefully is going to be a part of that. And I think that'll help us take steps forward in terms of getting contracts and that kind of thing, because at the minute players aren't contracted at the clubs here, so you just sign a registration form, and then you're free to move within the transfer window. So the transfer window's open for the first few weeks of the season, so if you start playing with a club and decide, oh, I don't like this here, you can just change without any problems, you know. So I think, you know, with the PFA hopefully being founded, that'll help kind of professionalize things a little bit. And but we still need more investment, you know, for us to be able to go semi-professional, because as I say, most of the clubs don't pay players any money at all. So yeah, probably a year or two at least away from that.
Yeah, in terms of the qualification for the European Championships and the attention that that's going to bring, you've already talked about, I suppose, the last week or so and the amount of attention it's already brought. But in the build-up to the Championships and throughout the competition itself next summer, it's going to be fairly intense on you. Win, lose or draw, just to be there. Is that going to help the league and the profile of the sport?
Yeah, I think that will help massively. You know, I'm sure there's plenty of businesses that will be willing to get behind us and support us. You know, it's definitely helped to unite the country, and you know, we've had support, as I say, from all over, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of businesses that will be hoping to support us. You know, there's the big sponsor in the league up here is the Danske Bank. And then Electric Ireland would be the main sponsors who help with the development programme and sponsor us then as a senior team as well. But I think definitely we need more help and more sponsorship, and hopefully the spotlight with us now, obviously having qualified, and then, as you say, in the build up to the tournament next year, we can help capitalise on that, and there'll be more money to invest in the women's game.
Which is
I definitely think qualifying will help that as well, putting you out there and everybody can see obviously how good you play in those games as well. So hopefully that'll happen, and hopefully we can follow suit. So
yeah.
Julie, in terms of your own role, you mentioned you're back with Crusaders, but obviously you've played abroad as well. No more than Steph, you've had your dalliances abroad in the UK mainly. What's been your, I suppose, biggest learning coming back to this environment and that kind of part-time, twice-a-week training environment from maybe a more professional setup abroad?
Yeah, I suppose initially it was hard to adapt, and I had to try and, not let myself get frustrated because, you can't be too hard on players. As I say, they're amateur players, and they're giving up their time to be there and they're doing their best, and yes, obviously you want them to be better or to apply themselves better, but, they're giving up their time to do something that they enjoy doing. And that's kind of, it's taken me a while, maybe it took me at least the first season anyway to kind of adjust to that and to remember that was, the reason those players are playing is first and foremost for the love of the game, and they're not getting paid any money to do it.
Yeah, and of course, there's also a huge, well, not huge maybe, but there's definitely a crossover between playing pools. I know, well, I don't know if she's current or former senior international up there. Catherine Heinemann's with Athlone Town this year in our league down here. And I know Grace Murray has played in the league. Tyler Toland has played in the league with Science Swifts. Grace Murray's been Newry City, maybe in the second division. I'm not quite sure what division they're in. So there's been a huge turnover. Are players up there aware of the league down south? And do you know maybe the teams or the personalities, or is it very separate? Because we wouldn't have much of an understanding of what's happening north of the border.
Yeah, we wouldn't be overly aware, to be honest. You're aware of, some of the more successful sides, obviously, because, some of us have played each other in Europe over the years. But we wouldn't have an in-depth knowledge of all the teams and, kind of their background or who played for them. As you say, the same as, you wouldn't be aware of who was playing where up here.
Yeah, I'd be the same in terms of that. I'd know players. Like, I obviously knew you play for Crusaders. I know a couple of the other girls only through Instagram really, or through social media. I'd see who they play for, but other than that, I wouldn't really have free reign to watch the games or anything like that, or seeing kind of much on the league itself.
Yeah, I think I'm going to show my age and say, for me, with strikers, we're Newton Abbey strikers. It's probably been a while since that's been the case up there. Julie, listen, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations again. It's a huge achievement to you and your teammates. I know you were involved in one of the goals in the second game, at least. I watched the highlights of the game, and it was great to see kind of taking on the bigger ranked nations and beating them. It's maybe something we need to get a little bit of inspiration and maybe learn a few lessons from down here. If we could do the same, we'd be happy to. Best luck in the championships and everything that happens between now and then as well. But thanks for joining us, and best luck in the start of the league next week.
Thanks for having me.
Congrats, Jules. See you later.
Thanks,
Steph, any little pangs of jealousy there at all as she's talking about the next 12 months ahead of her and her teammates?
Yeah, look, I think we all know that it could have been us. Obviously, we had to beat the Ukraine or even got a draw away. We would have been the playoff against Northern Ireland. And look, it's great to see them doing it. It's great to see the small kind of nation like ourselves qualifying for the European Championships. And obviously, you'd like to see them there ahead of Ukraine. But yeah, definitely it's tough to take, especially, as I said, the squad we have and how close we came. But hopefully it'll come soon for us.
And of course, if you want to take it on the other side of it, it's also a nice inspiration that maybe that's not that far away in the future for our girls as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, moving on, we do have the small matter of 4 Women's National League games taking place this weekend. And we start with your own fixture. That's top of the list. Bohemians versus Peamount United. You'll be playing over there in the Oscar Traynor Centre in Coolock. Bohemians have been impressive enough so far this season. They've definitely know where the back of the net is. They've scored an absolute ton of goals. In terms of yourselves, you'd be hoping maybe to keep your good form going, 100% record so far?
Yeah, look, I think we had Neve on, and it's funny because she said that they want to kind of try and get goals and get a goal scorer and go and try and beat teams. And in fairness, they've, as you said, been on the season so far. We obviously started the season with 2 very tough games, Wexford and Shels, and we played Bows in pre-season as well, and Bows are a very good team, so it's going to be a big test for us. I think it's not going to be an easy game. I think I've said this several times. I don't think any game this season is going to be easy, but looking forward to the game and just looking forward to playing against Bows again and hopefully getting those 3 points.
First team looking for their first victory of the season. Cork City, Turner's Cross again this weekend. DLR Waves in town. They had a nice last-minute winner last week. They'll be hoping maybe to continue their form. Cork, as we mentioned, looking to get off the mark for the first time.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good game. I think it'll be exciting. I think Cork, in fairness to them, as we said we've been talking about them quite a bit and bigging them up, and it probably hasn't got going for them the way they would have liked. So I'm sure they'd be looking to try and get, as you say, their first win, and DLR will be full of confidence coming in after that last minute winner. And I think, as we said before, they're a very solid team, and I think they'll be dangerous this year for everybody. I don't think they'll be going anywhere kind of wanting to just get draws or hoping to sit and defend. They'll go and attack and want to win the game. So I think it will be a very exciting game between Cork and DLR.
Yeah, they might be struggling to score at the front end, but they're definitely fairly mean at the back in terms of what they've been up to so far this year. So interesting to see how that game plays out. Terryland Park, I keep saying that, I apologise. Eamon is the venue for the two Western sides, Galway Women's and Treaty United. They do battle. Treaty looking maybe to restore a bit of pride after last week's beating at the hands of Wexford.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, look, we spoke about Treaty. They're a young side. They're trying to play the right side of football, and they're trying to do the right things. And Galway are going to be coming into the game obviously disappointed to lose out to that last minute winner against DLR as well. So again, hopefully another exciting game. I can see it maybe being a draw, but I think Galway might just have a little bit too much for Treaty today, or this weekend.
Of course, Rachel Kearns on fine form as well. 5 goals so far this season. Will she be on the score sheet on Sunday or Saturday? Time will tell. Someone who is hot on her heels on that particular competition, hadn't opened her account 7 days ago, now has 4 to her name. Ella Malloy, she's in action at home with her Wexford Youths side to Athlone Town. That should be a decent enough game too. Athlone seem fairly able to find the back of the net themselves, so you'd expect them to really give a good crack at Wexford at the weekend.
Yeah, I think when they played them last season as well, they gave them a very good game. Obviously, Ella Malloy going in full of confidence. I think we've spoke about Ellen quite a few times. She's a fantastic young player. I would fear for Athlone slightly just going into Wexford now with them flying in confidence and getting all the goals they did get last season. So I would say Athlone are going to need to be really on their best. They're going to have to give their best performance to maybe get something from the game. It's going to be a tough one for them. But I do think Wexford will probably come out on top in that game.
Yeah, it was 1-0 in the only game they played last year. That game played in Athlone. Aisling Frawley with a late goal. Wexford left it late. They will be hoping they'll be put things to bed a little bit earlier this time round. Shels, of course, not in action this weekend. They are currently still on top of the table, albeit on goal difference from Peamount United. Both teams on 6 points. Peamount with just those 2 games played so far. Back in, I suppose, a tie for third place, effectively, Wexford Youths, Bows, Galway and DLR all on 4 points from their opening 3 games. DLR with only 2 played in the competition so far. Cork City still waiting their first win, 2 points from their 3 games, while Athlone and Treaty have 1 point each from their opening 2 and 3 games respectively. It's a bit weird when you've got 9 teams. There's always that odd number of players, teams who played a game extra. It makes it a little bit less simple to just kind of look at the league table and say, oh, they're ahead, because essentially it's advantage Peamount at the top because you've played 1 game less. It's advantage DLR, even though they're behind on goal difference, they've played a game less than the teams that they're on 4 points with. So all that needs to be taken into consideration when you look at the league table. Steph, great to have you back in the hot seat again this week after Maeve de Burke filled in for you while you were in Champions League duty. That's allowed. Thank you so much to Jess Gleeson of DLR Waves and also to Julie Nelson of the Northern Ireland ladies football team. Fantastic to have them on after their qualification for the European Championships next year. We might keep in touch with them through the next 12 months as they prepare for that championship. Steph, you're in action again this week. It's cool luck for you on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening. You're playing Bohemians up there in the Oscar Trainer Centre. The best of luck to you and your teammates and to everybody playing in the league this week. Of course, you can catch this show on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to have you here week in, week out. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button or follow us on any of the podcast platforms. We'll be back with you next week. Talk to you then.